Let me take you back to October 8th of 2023. The World Championships in Budapest, Hungary had just ended. Eliud Kipchoge had just won his record-setting 5th Berlin Marathon. However, over in Chicago, the world was set to witness a very special kind of history that also took place over the 26.2-mile distance. On the flat and fast roads of the Chicago Marathon, we saw the young and upcoming star, Kelvin Kiptum from Kenya, achieve one of the all-time greatest feats in running history. For this marathon effort, Kiptum opened his first half marathon with a speedy time of 1 hour and 48 seconds. However, for the second half, he actually accelerated to a sub-60-minute half marathon to finish this race in a new world record time of 2 hours and 35 seconds. This astonishing negative split left the marathon world in complete shock. Never before had anyone even been close to the world record of Eliud Kipchoge, which stood at 2 hours, 1 minute, and 9 seconds from 2022. However, in only his third career marathon, Kiptum knocked more than 30 seconds off of one of the greatest all-time performances in marathon history. This kind of marathon effort was previously thought of as impossible. In the history of the marathon, no athlete had ever negative split a full marathon, with the second half resulting in a sub-60-minute performance. But just when this expectation was set to be borderline fact, Kelvin Kiptum showed up. In just 3 career marathons, Kiptum proved that running faster over the second half just might be the optimal strategy for this distance. He did it for his first ever marathon in Valencia, he did it for the second marathon he ever ran in London, and then, for the 2023 Chicago Marathon, he set yet another new standard that nobody has ever since been able to match. At 2 hours and 35 seconds, Kiptum's time is the equivalent to running each mile at 4 minutes 35.95 seconds per mile, or 2 minutes 51.4 seconds per kilometer, meaning that for this entire marathon, Kiptum was running each lap of your standard track in 68.58 seconds. This performance was so good that it solidified Kiptum's name immediately as a legend, and practically nobody foresaw anyone else even getting close to this kind of performance for decades. However, in this year's Chicago Marathon, we were in fact set to see something truly astonishing in the marathon, and it represents a new name that could become one of the all-time greats in this event. In the 2025 Chicago Marathon, we had yet another stacked field for this race. We had the defending champion, John Korir. We had some of the most talented athletes from Kenya, such as Amos Kipruto and Daniel Abenyo. And we also had Jeffrey Kamworor, Bashir Abdi, and Connor Mance from the United States looking to break that American record, which went all the way back to 2002. However, we also had a very special athlete from Uganda, Jacob Kiplimo, who has been on fire for the past couple of seasons. In addition to running a very impressive marathon debut in 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 37 seconds, Kiplimo also destroyed the half marathon world record this season, running a time of 56 minutes and 42 seconds, which honestly is one of the craziest world records that still shocks me when I look at this time. However, for this race, there was rumors that he and many others were going to seriously go after the world record of Kelvin Kiptum, and as every 5K ticked off through this race, it became apparent that they were in fact going after the world record of 2 hours and 35 seconds. Now, through the opening 5K, the lead pack split through in 13 minutes and 58 seconds, which is significantly ahead of world record pace, and this only continued through the opening 10 kilometers, as we had a total of 5 athletes split a time of 28 minutes and 25 seconds. And while it is somewhat of a time-honored tradition to have at least a few people go out at world record pace, this lightning-quick tempo did not relinquish as this Chicago Marathon continued. Through 15K, Kiplimo hit a time of 42:41, which again puts them on world record pace. And after passing through 20 kilometers in 57:06, the field went through this opening half marathon in 1 hour and 16 seconds. I have seen some seriously quick marathons in my lifetime. I've seen Kipchoge go under 1 hour back in 2022. I've seen various athletes go under 61. But to have not 1, not 2, not 3, and not even 4, but 5 athletes running right at world record tempo was not something that I foresaw happening in this race. This is truly a shocking result to see this kind of pack going through the half marathon. Through the half marathon split, John Korir, Amos Kipruto, Philemon Kamayo, Jacob Kiplimo, and Timothy Kiplagat were absolutely flying. And what honestly shocked me about this part of the race was that John Korir actually accelerated, meaning that even though he was already at world record tempo, he decided that this was the perfect opportunity to take the pace from around 4:34 or 4:35 per mile down to right around 4 minutes and 30 seconds. When I saw them pass through right at 1 hour and 16 seconds, I was seriously convinced that this world record was set to fall. But to see Korir take an acceleration like this and use this as a rather impressive racing tactic honestly left me speechless. This struck me as either a brave move with a man reaching insane fitness or a suicide move, as he would likely fall over the next 10 kilometers. Either way, this race only continued, and through 25 kilometers, we still saw John Korir, Jacob Kiplimo, Amos Kipruto, and Philemon Kamayo absolutely flying. And unfortunately, Timothy Kiplagat started to officially fall off the pace, as he was now more than 30 seconds behind this lead pack. Now, as you would imagine, as this race continued, we saw some very big carnage falling off of the pace, and through 30 kilometers, we saw Jacob Kiplimo achieve a split of 1 hour, 25 minutes, and 31 seconds, and this was officially the moment where he gapped John Korir. Now, not a lot of people knew this at the time, but Kiplimo actually split this 30-kilometer mark in a new world record time. This time was actually faster than anything Eliud Kipchoge ever did, or even anything that Kelvin Kiptum ever did. And amazingly, this tempo only continued all the way through the 35-kilometer split. Through 35K, Kiplimo had a time of 1 hour, 39 minutes, and 53 seconds, making him the singular athlete to ever go under 140 for 35 kilometers. Kiplimo was flying here, and it's still crazy to me how smooth he looks through such intense running. But, unfortunately, even though he was on world record pace for more than 75% of this race, and even though he still looked smooth, it would ultimately be over this final 5 kilometers where Kiplimo would really start to struggle. And this only makes sense. He was on world record pace, he was running alone up front at this point, and he had gapped a field that went out at a borderline suicide pace. Through 35K, the field was still slammed full of talent. Kipruto was only 1 minute and 12 seconds behind, Philemon Kamayo still hit a very quick mark at a time of 1:42.04, and Connor Mance from the US was on American record pace, as he hit a time of 1:43.15. But the question remained, could Jacob Kiplimo hold on to this lightning rhythm and somehow attack the record of Kelvin Kiptum? Well, unfortunately, the answer was set to be no, because over this final stage, Jacob Kiplimo hit a wall that I don't think he's ever hit before. Many times people will say that the marathon doesn't start until the final 10 kilometers or even over the final 5 kilometers. And for Kiplimo, this ultimately proved to be a brutal reality. For mile 21, Kiplimo hit a time of 4:38, which is still flying, and it's still putting him pretty much at world record pace. However, as the miles clicked on over this final stretch, he experienced some serious problems. For mile 22, he hit a 4:46, mile 23 was 4:50, mile 24 was a 4:55, and for the final 2 miles, he achieved a time of 5:05, and for the last mile from 25.2 to 26.2 miles, he achieved a time of 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, I do want to stress that this is still incredibly quick running, and there's absolutely no way that I could challenge this kind of tempo. But when you're aiming for the world record, and when you have your sights set at such a clocking, this final 10K had to be painful. However, throughout this struggle, there was still quite the sweet finish for Jacob Kiplimo, as he ran a time of 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 23 seconds to take this win, and this is actually a new personal record, and it now places him in the top 10 all-time for the marathon. Now, following behind Kiplimo was Amos Kipruto in 2:03:54, Alex Masai finished in 4th in 2:04:37, and Connor Mantz crushed the previous American record of Khalid Kanuchi, as he achieved a time of 2:04:43. Now, just to finish in the top 10, you had to run a time of 2:07:08 or faster. And I also wanted to shout out Rory Linkletter from Canada, who ran a very impressive time of 2:06:49. But the day completely belonged to Jacob Kiplimo. However, there's something that we have not mentioned about Kiplimo, and that's that out of this entire professional field that finished not just in the top 10, but in the top 20, Jacob Kiplimo was actually the youngest of everyone. Imagine being surrounded by runners with much more experience and much quicker personal bests, and yet you still throw down a time that takes the win by more than 1.5 minutes. This is only Jacob Kiplimo's second marathon of his entire career, and he literally held world record tempo for more than 80% of this race. Jacob Kiplimo is special, but his talents don't just lie in the full marathon. Again, he is the world record holder in the half marathon, as he holds a personal best of 56:42. But take a look at this man's full list of personal records stretching from the 5,000 up to the marathon. He's run a 12:40 for the 5,000, he holds the world record for the 15K, he's run a 26:33 for the 10,000, and again, his half marathon and marathon PBs are absolutely stunning. Not to mention, he's also run a 7:26 3,000, and that was all the way back in 2020. If there is any athlete in the world right now with a genuine ability to challenge the world record of Kelvin Kiptum, it is certainly with Jacob Kiplimo. And with a little bit more experience, and with a little bit more balanced running, I firmly believe that he is the athlete to not just go under 2 hours and 35 seconds, but I think he very much could go under 2 hours for the full marathon. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, until next time.